So anything else you wanted to talk about here on the gut and the fatigue? I think we hit the thyroid, of course. I alluded to the adrenals earlier because they play a huge role in regulating inflammation. And we know acute gut issues, they may be given a corticosteroid to calm down the gut inflammation. That's possible too. So we want to support your body's ability to do it naturally. I would also say supporting protein breakdown. So with maybe adding in free-form amino acids, because protein can be very hard on the body to break down. So of course, dialing in enzymes and acids and maybe giving extra free-form amino acids. So it's taking stress off the digestive system to be able to access those amino acids as well.
I think you've hit it all. I mean, I would just say kind of where do you go next is you really have to get the data. I mean, we've talked about a lot, right? But if you don't have the data, you don't know what you're up against. You don't know what you're doing. So, I think the best advice I could give is if you're dealing with these issues, test, don't guess. And so, feel free to reach out to Dr. J, Justin, at justinhealth.com, and he can run labs on you anywhere in the world and send them to your door and jump on a call and discuss it and make a great protocol to help you to get better. Same thing for me, my website, evanbrand.com, and we're available. We love helping you all. We're grateful to be in this position. So, sure, a lot of you listening are kind of do-it-yourselfers. That's what led you to be smart and find a podcast anyway, because you want to kind of educate yourself. But there's a certain point where it's okay to reach out. And I tried to fix myself for a long time, and you spend more money and you spend more time doing that. So, feel free to reach out and get a guide.
100%. And then you're available at evanbrand.com worldwide. We're available worldwide, and we're clinicians. We have our sleeves rolled up and we're in the trenches every day dealing with patients. Also, if you're listening to this, don't just kind of glom on to one thing. So we see lots of people that are like, that come in like, oh, I know it's H. pylori, or I know it's Candida, or I know it's SIBO. Keep an open mind on what's happening, because you have the right to have more than one issue going on at the same time. And for instance, Evan's original story was Evan had, now I could have it wrong, I think he had H. pylori, Giardia, and crypto.
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah, H. pylori, Giardia, crypto. Those are some serious infections. Any one of those infections is serious and could have created the symptoms Evan was having, yet he had all three at the same time. So if Evan was like, oh, it's only H. pylori, he may have missed the fact that Giardia and crypto were involved too. So go into it with an open mind, and you have the right to have more than one infection happening at the same time. Sad but true, but either way, there are solutions to work on it and fix it.
I was tired.
Yeah.
Man, I was tired. Whew.
Absolutely.
That was a level of exhaustion that just doesn't even seem real. I mean, that's how you know something's wrong, when you're that tired. But hopefully with this education we're providing, people can reach out and work on this before it gets to that crisis level, because it's much easier to pull you out if you're not that deep.
Now, Evan, can you go to your conventional medical doctor or gastroenterologist and typically get these infections picked up on?
No, definitely not. The testing is just so outdated. It's not sensitive like the DNA stuff we're using. So that's the downside, is if you go to the gastro doc down the road, say, hey, I think I've got Giardia. I heard these two guys on the internet talk about it. They'll probably just laugh in your face and say, well, you didn't travel to any third world countries, so you don't have it. But if you really want to, Sally, I'll test you. And they'll run their outdated tests, and then everything comes back negative. And then they'll say, see, I told you it was all in your head. Just, take an acid blocker.
So yes, my opinion is very similar. So the more acute you are, especially with typical gastrointestinal symptoms, the greater chance they'll pick you up, especially if you came back from like Mexico or some kind of a country like Bali where infections are probable, right? But now what do you do if your infections aren't really gut-based symptoms? They're the fatigue or the brain fog. Well, then how does that get picked up? You're typically never going to get picked up for that. You're more than likely to get a psych referral for an antidepressant, right, than to get a gut test. And Evan already alluded to some of the technology they have isn't going to be as up to par. So we have a little bit, more access to the DNA technology, a little bit more sensitive. And then also like H. pylori testing, they may run a breath test, right? A urea breath test and look for elevated levels of CO2. It's possible, but that may miss an infection. And if it's more subclinical, you may need a more sensitive test to pick it up. So if you're listening and you're like, hey, I'm going to go to my MD, that may not be the solution. It may not get you the answers you want. And if you don't have the typical gut symptoms, diarrhea, bloating, gas, a lot of stomach discomfort and irritability, they may not even want to run a test because those symptoms don't match with what they think the problem could be.
Yeah.